Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, once again. Welcome to the extraordinary meeting of the County Council, meeting taking place on Wednesday, the 7th of December 2022. This meeting is being broadcast live to our YouTube channel. Before we commence with the formal business, could I ask everyone in the chamber to ensure their mobile phones are switched off or made silent, please. Before we move to the business on the agenda, I would like to remind you of the housekeeping rules for the meeting. Any requests to speak must be made using your voting handset. Once invited to speak, please stand up and face forward and switch on the closest microphone to you. Members should be respectful to each other during the meeting and observe the members' code of conduct. There should be no shouting or pointing of fingers, and once a point of order has been dealt with, it will not be revisited. Thank you. Finally, I would like to extend warm welcome to the members of the public watching the live stream and to those attending in person. You are very welcome to attend and observe proceedings. However, I request politely that you do not disrupt this meeting. Item 1, declarations of interest. Does any member wish to declare an interest in relation to the item of business on the agenda? Item 2, to consider the business set out in the requisition attached to the agenda. Members, this extraordinary County Council meeting has been convened following a requisition submitted and signed by the requisite number of councillors. Before we proceed any further, I will hand over to the monitoring officer who will deal with some points of procedures.
Thank you, Chair. The motion submitted by members of the Labour Group for this extraordinary meeting of Council is a motion on notice. So the usual rules of debate, which I explained at the start of item 3 in the ordinary meeting, will apply. I'd advise members that at this stage, the terms of any devolution deal are the subject of negotiation. They are confidential until such time as there is a deal in principle and it is announced by the Secretary of State. At that point, details will be published and the statutory process for consideration of the proposed deal will commence. That will include consideration of the options by Cabinet, as well as a public consultation on the proposed scheme before a final decision is taken as to whether to enter the deal. This approach is consistent with that taken in relation to other recently announced devolution deals elsewhere in the country. Therefore, for the purposes of the debate today, I advise members to concentrate on the principles of devolution rather than specific proposals. In the event that specific proposals are raised, it may be necessary to pass a resolution to exclude the press and public, which I'm sure members would wish to avoid. Thank you.
Councillor Marshall, can you move your...
Chair, sorry, can I just move a motion without notice that we extend the time to 60 minutes to make sure that we have enough time to debate this and everyone has time to speak. That's doubling the allowed time for motions, so I hope everyone can support that.
Could I have a seconder, please?
Second that, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Can we agree that? Councillor Marshall, can you move your motion, please?
Thanks, Chair. Chair, like so many of us in this chamber, I have so many questions for the leaders of this council, but they all start with the word why. Why have we had to force this debate in here today? Why have we had to drag devolution discussions from secret meeting rooms into the light of the council chamber in Durham? Why are the council's so-called leaders tying themselves in knots, avoiding the views of others on something so vital to our county's future? And why are the views of the people who selected us as their community's representatives being suppressed? We all serve County Durham. Every vote is a token of trust given to us temporarily to make decisions that improve the lives of the communities and the county we all live in. A county-wide devolution deal is the way we deliver that. It provides us with more powers, more investment, more ability to set our own priorities and to become masters of our own destiny. So again, I ask why? Why does this council's leadership seek to pass up this once-in-a-generation opportunity? an opportunity that the government never offered to the previous Labour administration, but was welcomed with open arms from the Council's leadership when the Levelling Up White Paper was announced by Michael Gove. For months, we've all been kept in the dark by Councillors Hopgood and Bell, as they've held secret discussions, trying to undo a year of inaction and ineptitude, a year in which other leaders agreed spending priorities, divvied up devolution investments between themselves. A year wasted by an incompetent Tory Lib Dem coalition here, only for its leaders to suddenly cast aside the opportunity for County Durham to stand on its own and throw us in with the other authorities, surrendering hundreds of millions of transport cash that's already been allocated. Relationships with the wider region are vitally important, north, south and west. But why would any of us back a deal that doesn't even offer equality with those we are entering into it with? It's like the worse than the worst prenuptial agreement ever signed, Chair. The deal currently on the table has not got a single penny legally committed to County Durham. And unfortunately, Chair, the same cannot be said for other parts of the North East. Having had several meetings over the past 12 months on devolution with members of the public, officers, stakeholders and the leader of this council, it's clear to me that the leadership of this council is absolutely out of touch with our communities and completely out of its depth with these negotiations. Councillor Hopgood and Councillor Bell should come clean on what they want us signed up to. Come clean with the councillors and come clean with our communities. That word again, why? Why won't you take the shackles off County Durham, grasp a once-in-a-generation chance to deliver a devolution deal that puts our county first, allowing decisions that affect our communities being made right here in our own county? The County Council must reject a deal that makes us a small part of a mega authority overseen by a Tyneside-based mayor, Chair. If we're going to have a mayor, it should be one democratically elected by our people, right here in our county, based in County Durham, from our county, and one that understands our diverse communities and can stand up for the people of Barnet Castle, Consett, Willington, Crook, Ferry Hill, Easington Sea and Peatley, Spennymoor, Newton Aycliffe, Bishop Auckland, Chesley Street, Children and every other town and village across this county, as well as standing up for Durham City. How can these smaller communities, the backbone of our county, compete with investment into major cities around the region without a county deal? It's virtually impossible, I would suggest. I'm urging you all to put politics aside and to put County Durham first. Accept the Durham-only deal offered by ministers, a deal the Lib Dems and the Tories have so far failed to act on. 500,000 people in our county, and most don't have a clue what deal is being done in their name. We've got 2 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, a growing cultural offer attracting 20 million visitors worth over 1 billion to our economy. We're the largest part of the North East, we have the largest economy, and we also have some of the biggest ambitions. And we have the chance to take power out of London and bring it right here to County Durham. A chance to put County Durham first. Look at what's happening in Cornwall. Their county deal was secured them 360 million. Why shouldn't Durham have the same? The government want to do it. Cornwall got a county deal, no mayor, millions in extra cash. Why haven't the leadership here done the same for County Durham? Why pass up the opportunity of securing more to invest in our villages, help our larger towns, compete with Newcastle, Gateshead, Sunderland, making everyone across the region raise the game? Amanda and Richard's deal makes absolutely no sense at all for County Durham. Let's not sell our residents down the river when we have the chance to improve their environment, prospects, infrastructure and quality of life. Why? Today, let's agree to put County Durham first and back a deal that gives us more say, more investment and more power, and that's a county deal. Chair, I'd just like to form...
Order, please. Right, Councillor Marshall, could you wind it up now, please?
Yeah, of course I can. Let's agree to put County Durham first and back a deal that gives us more say, more investment and more power right here in County Durham, a county deal, and I formally propose the motion that's been outlined on the screen. Thanks, Chair.
Chair, just on a point of order, for information purposes, are we being asked to agree the principle for public consultation on devolution, or we're being asked to make a decision on devolution.
No, you're not being asked to make a decision in respect of devolution. The recommendation, the motion is recommending that council recommends to cabinet that it chooses a county deal. So you're looking to make a recommendation to cabinet. It will be cabinet that determines the principles in relation to devolution.
But there will be consultation with the public.
Yes.
Further consultation. So nobody's being suppressed.
Could I have a seconder, please?
Thank you, Chairman. In seconding the motion, I echo the comments made by Councillor Marshall. There are so many questions unanswered, not least for the members in this room today, every one of us elected by the people of County Durham, to stand up for the people of County Durham. On behalf of the people we represent, we need to know how hard the coalition fought for a county-wide deal. A deal that would put Durham first on every metric, and a deal that would have ensured that every single penny devolved to Durham would stay in Durham. Because we know that nothing, not a halfpenny, in a metropolitan deal is earmarked specifically for County Durham. And after so long leading everyone to believe they supported the county deal for Durham, why at the 11th hour did they suddenly and unilaterally switch tack and decide to throw our lot in with a metropolitan devolution deal designed and funded specifically to serve the urban towns and cities of Tyne and Wear? County Durham is a unique and rural county that needs and deserves its own bespoke devolution deal. Councillor Marshall referred to a recently announced county-wide deal for Cornwall, a deal that will secure £360 million over 30 years, crucially including funding for transport bespoke to a rural county, and with every last penny going to the people and communities of that county. So, if a county-wide deal is good enough for the people of Cornwall, why does the coalition here think it's not worth fighting for the people of County Durham? If the coalition commits us to a metropolitan deal with the conurbations to the north, there's no doubt that we, as a rural county, will be left behind. How will Spennymoor compete with Sunderland? How will Newton Aycliffe be heard over the voices of Newcastle? What interest will a metropolitan mayor based on Tyneside have in the people in the communities of Peatley, Chesterley Street and the other settlements across our county? The uncomfortable truth, Chair, is that our people will be left with the scraps from the table of an LA6 already up to speed and several years ahead of Durham in terms of transport funding alone.
1 minute.
And that isn't good enough, Chair. I wish the authorities of the current LA6 well, and I genuinely hope they prosper, but not at the expense of the people here in County Durham. The coalition needs to summon the strength and the courage to stand up for our county and secure a county-wide deal for devolution for County Durham. After all, it's the only deal, the only one, mind, that guarantees that every last penny of funding comes to County Durham. So if the coalition can't bring themselves to do that, they should do the decent thing, stand aside and hand the negotiations over to somebody who can. I urge the coalition to recognise the unique value of County Durham and its people and put us first by securing a county-wide deal for Durham. I second the motion, Chair, and I urge every member of the Council to support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Hopgood.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like to move an amendment to the motion, please. And I'd like to move an amendment that reads, this Council recommends Durham County Council's Cabinet puts County Durham first by securing a devolution deal that is best for County Durham, residents and businesses with government. So we've heard quite a lot of rhetoric there, as I expected. Councillor Marshall, I would just say, don't judge everyone by how you operate your group. The Joint Administration have been kept informed with what's been happening. You've contradicted yourself by saying that you haven't spoke to us, but then you said we did meet. Well, it can't be both. I can't actually speak to you and then not meet you. So it's either one or the other. We're a small part of an LA7. The population of County Durham is quarter of what the LA7 makes up. There is no guarantees for any spending detailed to any local authority within there, within any of the deals. But there is a process to follow, and that's the process that is set out by the Secretary of State and set out by government, and that will be followed and presented to Cabinet in due course. So I will have other things to say when we come to the substantive motion or where we get to. But in terms of what's best for County Durham, you moving a motion that only deals with one option isn't what's best for County Durham. And I think the motion as it's amended speaks better for the people in here, for the people we represent, that we go to get the best deal for County Durham, whatever that looks like.
Point of order, Chair. The amendment as put forward by Councillor Hopgood completely negates the motion as previously forwarded by the Labour Group. The previous motion made a specific statement as to what we were seeking as a council. This does not remove that and negates the motion. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I disagree that the amendment negates the motion. For an amendment to be valid, it needs to be relevant to the motion. It is. It relates to the Council's options in respect of devolution. It proposes an alternative course of action, which is acceptable. It leaves open the option of a county deal being recommended to Cabinet. And it isn't the same as just voting against your recommendation, and therefore it's a valid amendment.
Could I have a seconder, please?
Thank you, Chair. I second the amendment and reserve my right to speak towards the end, and I call on a named vote at the end of the debate.
Councillor Kevin Shaw and Joanne Howie, you registered to speak before the amendment was moved. Do you wish to speak on the amendment?
Okay, what about Joanne Howie? No.
No. Right. Councillor Adam.
Thank you, Chair. I wish to speak against the amendment. Thank you, Chair. Councillor Eddie Adam, representing Aycliffe West. Chair, this amendment almost negates the main motion by offering us what is already on the table, a bad deal for County Durham. They claim there is no alternative. It claims the best deal possible. How do we know? We haven't scrutinised the deal or any other alternative. The current government has failed County Durham through austerity and so-called levelling up, and it is failing us through a devolution deal that could see us as a second class to the other LA6. In my view, Chair, this local authority's leadership are levelling down County Durham if it continues to pursue a LA7 deal, handing power to an external mayor and an LA6 that will not have an interest in the south of our region. Let's analyse the current proposal, Chair. A single solution with no comparisons for us to judge. A key decision by a leader, deputy leader, senior officers and possibly other cabinet members, of which we are unaware of, but not this council. A minimum deal on actual funding coming to County Durham. Little confidence in the fair distribution of that funding coming to County Durham. A deal that could be in detriment to County Durham, but not the LA6. Entering a 30-year deal without scrutiny by this council. Unheard of, colleagues. Chair, I put it to members here today. Have you, as members, scrutinised this deal? Are you confident that your community wants an LA7 deal? Is this deal right for the whole of County Durham? In my view, Chair and members, I think not. Therefore, I urge you to vote against this amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Richard Bell.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Marshall raised a number of rhetorical why questions. I have only one why question in response, and that is, why did the Labour group only get briefed on the terms of what's on the table on Monday of this week, despite it being an offer for many months previously? That's a good question for Councillor Marshall to answer. The leadership of this council has been open and transparent throughout. Members of the Joint Administration have had 2 or 3 briefings, and it is the nature of these things that there were long periods of inactivity followed by short bursts of intense activity. As you'd expect doing the job I do, I've taken a keen interest in the finances behind what's on offer, and while I cannot go into numbers today, as has been said, these will be provided in the Cabinet report in due course. I can confirm that the LA7 deal brings significantly more money than a county deal would have done. My aim has always been to get as much money out of government as possible, because responsibilities without resources benefit nobody. I have talked to 3 Secretaries of State over the past year, Michael Gove, Greg Clark and Simon Clark. All have been very clear that the most money follows an LA7 deal, and that they wanted an LA7 deal. After I spoke with Simon Clark, he followed up with a letter to me on the 7th of October, and I quote from the last paragraph. I would also reiterate my view that Durham joining the wider North East deal is likely to result in a more generous underlined settlement than if Durham secured their own mayoral counter deal. I trust that this is clear. I'll repeat that, though Councillor Marshall has seen this letter in a private briefing along with Councillor Shaw. I would also reiterate my view that Durham joining the wider North East deal is likely to result in a more generous underlined settlement than if Durham secured their own mayoral counter deal. I trust that this is clear. The government has wanted this deal all along. It has thrown money at it, and the LA7 deal is now resourced better than anyone could have expected, a fact our colleagues in the LA6 recognised. That letter also asked for our opinion on the LA7 deal by the end of that week, and that the opinion Cabinet gave was that it was minded in principle to agree. And as things stand, the LA7 deal is the best deal on the table and is what Cabinet will be supporting. But just as in a planning meeting, it is not right at this stage to predetermine our position, hence the LA7 deal is not expressly referenced in the amendment. I can confirm that the LA7 deal brings significantly more money than a county deal would have done, and I would commend all councillors to look at the facts and support the amendment. Thank you.
Councillor Gunn.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to go back to this amendment here in terms of it being valid, and of course accept your judgment on this. We have to do that. I don't believe actually that it is valid in respect of it not altering completely what we are recommending here, because we are well aware of the fact that the leader and the deputy leader have already indicated a preferred option for Durham County Council. We are aware of that fact, and it's out there, and we know that that preferred option was actually put to the leaders of the other councils prior to it coming to the leader of the Labour group. So there may well have been talks and invitations to meetings, but they were actually after you'd gone to the leaders of the other local authorities to let them know what your preferred option was. That, I think, is absolutely deplorable. And also, I understand that the leader and the deputy leader focused on talks with ministers and civil servants earlier on a county deal. On a county deal, that was your focus. And my understanding is that actually the reason why this authority and the leader and deputy leader came late to the table around this devolution deal for the wider North East is because then they found out that if there's a county deal, you have to have a mayor for Durham County. And you didn't want a mayor, but you're quite prepared to have a mayor for the wider region.
1 minute.
Now, Chair, how can it be right that it's a good deal for County Durham to actually have a mayor who may be in Newcastle, who may be in Northumberland, making decisions for County Durham on issues to do with a whole range of funding and where that funding goes? That is not a good deal. And I totally oppose this amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Jake Miller, Councillor Miller.
Thanks, Chair. I'm speaking against the amendment. I'm not sure how you can say what deal is best for the residents of County Durham when you haven't consulted with them. We've just heard that you don't consult with them until after it's gone to the Secretary of State. That's far too late. You know, you've made a decision on a preference. That is your decision that you feel is right. We're not here to make decisions on what we want and what we feel are right. We're here to make our residents' lives better, and the only way you do that is you listen to them. And to quote Councillor Hopgood, we're a small part of an LA7. Exactly. We can be a small part of an LA7, or we can be the only part of a county-wide deal. And in response to Councillor Bell, you can't put a price on local knowledge and local experience, and the only deal that brings that is a county deal.
Chair, just by way of clarification, there is a statutory process to be followed to determine whether or not we enter into this. The Secretary of State will announce a deal in principle, as he has done with Cornwall and other areas of the country. That's what commences the statutory process and a report into Cabinet, and there will be a public consultation before a final decision is taken by the relevant authorities, if appropriate, or just this authority, if appropriate, and then finally the Secretary of State. So there is a process. So just to clarify that.
Can I just ask a question, Chair? Have residents been consulted with to date?
No, because the statutory process hasn't started yet.
Thank you.
Councillor Tinsley.
Thank you, Chair. The amendment, a devolution deal that is in the best interest for County Durham. Who decides that? And it isn't the people of County Durham who should decide what is in their best interest. I don't know who it is. And the whole problem with this process from the very beginning, as it was mentioned earlier in Councillor Marshall's when he spoke, was this is all about deals being done behind closed doors. Now, our monitoring officer has said there is a statutory process. I don't challenge that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't go beyond that and consult with the people of County Durham. We can do that now. This is one of the only opportunities where this issue is getting aired in debate. It's not getting aired out there. Why? Because there are certain members of the leadership do not want it to be aired in public. Now, what it is that I stand here and I support a county deal. The reason for that is, I believe, I have confidence in the people of County Durham. Let's just think of an example. Transport funding, infrastructure funding. There's a meeting in Manchester. They're talking about how the money's going to be thrown out, given here and there. If we have a mayor in County Durham who's shouting for County Durham, he can go and fight the corner for County Durham. But if it's a mayor based in Newcastle, representing an area from Berwick down to Barnard Castle, he's fighting for that bigger area. And we all know around issues with the Metro and where the money's going to go. There's no guarantee, no ring fencing whatsoever for money in a region-wide deal for County Durham, and I'll be challenged on that. But a key thing here as well is that you have to sit back and think about who you represent, because that's what this is about. There are many of you over there who are independents. You're a member of a political party, and I respect that. And you're independent in your area, you're independent in your ward, You understand the people that you represent.
1 minute.
But what you can do as well is you can stand up and say, Durham is independent. Durham has its say. And Durham's interests are best represented by a directly elected mayor as part of a county-wide deal in County Durham. It's not being thrown in with a tiny wee conurbation where we will get crumbs off the table. So what I would say to you, and I would encourage you, is to vote against this nonsense verbiage that is an amendment. Have a word with you, have a think about this, and think what's in the best interest of County Durham and the residents you represent. I won't be voting for this. Thank you, Chair.
Could I please remind, before I ask for the next councillor, no shouting, please? Thank you. Councillor Wilkes.
No intention of shouting, Chair. Councillors, we know what's on the table, and that's why I'm livid with the Labour Group leadership for playing politics with our county's future and woefully misrepresenting the truth about devolution. There are two options. There are two. Let's be clear, there are two. Others have raised funding, but let's be clear and understand the political differences between these two things. Either we have a directly elected mayor just for County Durham who would have complete control over how every single penny of this council's £1 billion budget is spent and complete control over who sits on cabinet, or we have a regional figurehead with few powers who has categorically zero ability to spend or influence even 1 pence of our budget. A directly elected mayor of the LA7 would simply sit on a board with one vote with the 7 council leaders and make decisions on how additional money provided to the region from government would be spent. No more powers than that. Any councillor who votes with Councillor Marshall today is saying that they are happy for a single individual from a political party to control everything this council does. Someone who could be parachuted in from anywhere in the country. One individual should not be deciding on how every penny of children's services money is spent. One person should not be deciding on which families in this county get help and which don't. Just imagine somebody cutting something to divert cash to their own pet project, overruling 126 democratically elected councillors and moving us to monthly bin collections to pay for some vanity project. Scrapping neighbourhood budgets or controlling all Section 106 money. These are plausible realities in a dictatorship. Replace them with something you or your community wants, needs or expects, and then remember, one person can take away everything you hold dear.
Point of order, Chair.
We have nearly finished. We should not accept that the public are realising that they are being hoodwinked by certain individuals hell-bent on their own personal positions, doing damage to their own party and risking the loss of millions of pounds for this county. It's time to choose. Are you with County Durham or you are with the dictator?
Councillor Tinsley.
Point of order is that the monitoring officer in the instructions about how this debate was undertaken was very clear that only matters of principle can be discussed. The previous contribution there from the councillor was clear about specifics of a proposal that is not in the public domain, as we are aware of, and as such should be struck from the record, and she has to remove that. Thank you, Chair.
I think the councillor was explaining the distinction between a Metro Mayor and a directly elected leader, which is in the white paper, is in the public domain.
Councillor Hood.
Thank you, Chair. Let's hope we get through this nice and clearly without anybody heckling or shouting. Simply put, an LA7 deal is better for the people of County Durham. Here's the facts. An LA7 deal brings more money and more opportunities for County Durham. A county deal does not. An LA7 deal gives...
I think Councillor Bell has read from a letter with the Secretary of State that leads us to believe that the county deal would be less beneficial than an LA7 deal. That's a principle. The details of what would on the table in respect of those deals is specifics.
May I continue? Thank you, Chair. An LA7 deal means we become big enough for the government's Trailblazer deal, meaning even more devolved powers, more funding and more opportunities. That is not available in a county-only deal. Never will be. We cannot be big enough. The opposition like to claim that County Durham is closed for business, as they say, under this joint administration. Well, what this joint administration is proposing is an LA7 deal that brings the maximum economic impact with more jobs. An LA7 deal is the first choice for businesses. County Durham Labour propose a county-only deal, meaning a more modest economic impact, fewer jobs, and is not the business community choice. And finally, in terms of how this council will function in a devolved deal, an LA7 deal means there's no change to Durham County Council. This council will function the same as it does now. A county-only deal would mean a directly elected leader, one person, who then has full control over all council services and devolution. An LA7 deal would see Durham County Council continue to be a place of democracy and proportional representation and not become a dictatorship. The people of County Durham have already had that for 100 years. I'm sure they don't want it again. Councillor Crute says that there's been a unilateral switch by this administration.
Excuse me, no shouting.
So,
order.
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure because I was told I had to stand in the last meeting from Councillor Hovels, and I normally sit down so you can hear us better. I just want to make sure that I'm heard, that's all. Councillor Hovels said it last time. It was Councillor Hovels who brought it up last time. So,
order.
I'll close with the following quotes. Reaching a deal takes time, but leaders have all agreed to move forward to the next stage of negotiations and are all determined to reach an agreement that is good for the North East. They're not my words. They are the words of the then chair of the North East Combined Authority, Councillor Simon Hennig, in an official press release dated the 16th of October 2015. The statement from Councillor Hennig continues with, leaders will continue to seek further consultation with the public and other stakeholders. That's exactly what this joint administration is proposing. If it was good enough for County Durham Labour then, why not now? And before anybody says, well, that was 7 years ago and a lot's changed since then, I'll kindly refer the opposition to this. Here's the Labour Party's latest publication, A New Britain, Renewing Our Democracy and Rebuilding Our Economy. Within it is Recommendation 10, which states, there should be an economic growth or prosperity plan for every town and city to contribute to our shared prosperity, owned by councils, mayors, towns and cities working in partnership. It continues by saying both local and regional partnerships are needed. And that can take advantage of powers being pushed out from the centre, particularly on skills and transport. It also recommends regional partnerships to enable local leaders to group together using their joint powers and influence to deliver change at scale on issues such as clusters. It's page 83 if anyone needs one of a follow. I will be voting for the amendment.
Point of order, please.
Councillor Howie. Oh, sorry, yes.
I hope Councillor Hood's enjoying that booklet, by the way. To attack two people in this council like that is absolutely disgusting, and I hope that's going to be brought up.
Who did he attack? I think he read what
Councillor Hood referenced two members on this side for what happened in the past, and I don't find that on or his behaviour.
What? It's fact. It's not attacking, it's fact.
Councillor Howie.
Thank you, Chair. I myself thought that having a Durham deal was the best option at first. However, since looking into the options and the new boundary reviews on top as well, I have decided that joining the LA6 was the better option. Concert is now joining Blaydon to have an MP for both of them. But are we happy to let Blaydon have more in their area than in North County Durham? Do we want to be the little man stuck in between two massive influential areas of Teesside and the LA6? Who would want to invest in County Durham when faced with such progressive areas? If we join the LA6, we will have more money brought into the area for our residents, more opportunities, and we will be more progressive and have more options. Do we want to be stuck in the past because the Labour group leader wanted to have control of the county for his own vanity, or do we want to be a progressive, forward-thinking area where everyone has a chance to look after County Durham like we are now, but with more money and investment for our area? I am all for progression, and that's why I will not be supporting this amendment. Thank you.
I will be supporting the amendment.
I will be, sorry. I will be. Sorry, I wrote this before the amendment, but I will be, yes, sorry. I will be supporting the amendment, just for the record.
Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Chair. Labour seem intent on making this a silly internal squabble, and I really have no time for that. In the past year and a half, the Joint Administration has demonstrated unprecedented levels of ambition for this county, its businesses and its residents, and that's exactly what we're doing now. Working with businesses and their representative organisations as closely as I do, I'm in no doubt that they see the economic value in working together with regional colleagues, and that is the direction of travel that best meets our joint economic ambitions. As a county, we have worked with partners to develop our very first inclusive economic strategy. What that means is that we are ready to secure economic growth, ready to secure investment, ready to forget about underachievement of the past and to get this county moving, to close the gap, all of the things that we talked about in the previous meeting, the gaps in health, in poverty, in employment, all of the things that hold us back. That's what we have to have an eye to, not having a scrap in here. Working in partnership, we secured a position as one of the top 4 in the City of Culture competition. No doubt that's helped influence government's recent decision to award the first regional tourism pilot to us here in the North East. 2.7 million across the LA7 geography to increase visitor numbers and value for the region. The strength of the Joint Transport Committee has enabled an impressive award of 163 million for bus service improvements. Again, another example of the power of partnership working across the LA7 geography. If we come to the LA7 deal, we come from a position of strength. A regional mayor will seek out the most investable schemes, and in County Durham, we are ready to take full advantage of that, securing opportunities for our businesses and our residents. I urge my colleagues to do the only sensible thing and support the amendment.
Councillor Sir.
Thank you, Chair. I can't shout, so that won't be happening. Can I just ask, I've just got a simple statement really here. It said, and sorry, Councillor Bell, I'm just quoting, you've just said that this deal is better than a county deal. Well, for me, yes, I do sit on the other side of the chamber and I'm very proud to be Labour, but I haven't seen a county deal, so I don't know what's different from a county deal or an LA7 deal, so I don't know what was on the table for that, and I would have liked to have seen that, not be shouted at and dictated at about why we won't have our own budget, we won't have control of our own budget. I want to know what a county deal would have done for my residents. I represent thousands of residents, we all do in here, so I'll be voting against this amendment because consultation is key. We've talked about it, and I accept 100% what Helen has told us about this. But surely we need to know what options are on the table in order for us to make an informed choice, not for decisions to be made in a back room and then just presented to us at the final hour. For me, I don't know that it is a better deal, this, because I haven't seen what a potential county deal can be for us. So for me, without that information, I will be voting against this amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor McKean.
Thank you, Chair. For too long, this county has not received the levers it needs to level up and address the unique challenges it faces. The devolution agreement empowers local leaders here who know best the issues. I look forward to turbocharging levelling up, spreading opportunity, and unleashing this great area's full economic potential. These aren't my words, Council. These are the words of Tory MP for Bishop Auckland, Henna Davison, unveiling the Cornwall deal a few days ago. If it's good enough from her mouth for the people of Cornwall, then why isn't it being considered for her own constituents? Yeah, it might bring in more money, but as alluded to before, there's no earmarking it there for us. I wonder what discussions our elected leaders here have had with MPs from both parties across the county, how they fed into this debate. At the moment, we have two options, as Councillor Wilkes alluded to, and we've heard about the statutory process, but because, unlike a lot of other places, we have two options, I feel quite uncomfortable about not being able to discuss specifics, because we are in a position as a county where I think that's necessary, where a greater level of transparency is necessary, because there are two paths we could go down. I feel ever so slightly betrayed that we can't speak as openly as we otherwise would have been able to in this meeting today. We've heard earlier from Councillor Hood that a trailblazer would mean more power, but also his cabinet colleague, Councillor Wilkes, has said that mayors are good because it's less power, so I wonder where the consistency is on that. We've also heard about preserving democracy, but Councillor Scott has described this whole debate as just a scrap. Actually, this is us coming together to talk about what the future should be. I would like to know today from Councillor Hopgood, is she going to follow the democratic wish of the Council, regardless of the outcome?
Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Chair. I'd actually like to speak on a point of order regarding the amendment, and the reason for it being a point of order is whether or not it's in order for us to be discussing it as an amendment in the light of, at the beginning of this meeting, there were no declarations of interest made when you specifically asked for them. The Council's constitution does spend a lot of time looking at things that are classed as other relevant interests, and one of those under Part B, Section 8, Part B, is register anybody of which they are a member or in a position of general control or management to which you're appointed or nominated by the Council. So really my point of order is we've heard 5 Cabinet members, and this amendment was proposed and seconded by 2 Cabinet members, trying to influence the Council on a recommendation to the Cabinet, which is a body that they were all appointed to. Thanks.
I don't think the Cabinet members have another relevant interest to declare. Being a Cabinet member isn't, for the purposes of discharging council business, isn't another relevant interest.
Councillor Blakey.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We've had a lot of discussions this morning about democracy and not handing over power to a Mayor of Tyneside. But on a couple of points, who says that the Mayor will not be from County Durham? Mainly, the Mayoral Combined Authority is directly elected leader, and that operates with a Cabinet. That's a Cabinet that the Mayor doesn't hand-pick, but one made up of the 7 leaders of every authority. The Government White Paper, when introducing county deals, did not take into account or consideration the impact of such deals would have on unitary councils. Devolution was designed to devolve powers down from government to a more local level, not to move council operations up from local members to a single person with dictatorship powers. The people of County Durham do deserve the very best. So let's get this consultation underway as soon as and get the voice of the people. Thank you.
Councillor Duffy, please.
Councillor Duffy, Peterlee West. For years and years, County Durham has sadly been at the wrong end of the National League table when it comes to poverty and deprivation. For years, many people have said that Westminster doesn't understand the North East and what we need here. That everything is too London-centric. So when the opportunity arises to move from some of those powers and money that goes with them to the North East on a grand scale, Labour in County Durham are once again happy to take second best. We have seen their lack of ambition and their inability to look forward and outwards for years. For over 5 years now, we have seen the investment that has been given and delivered in the likes of Tees Valley and Greater Manchester, where larger mayoral combined authorities are in place. And County Durham Labour are happy that County Durham does not become part of one of these authorities, and therefore lose out on the opportunity to bring to this county. All members have had the opportunity now to hear from officers and know the figures involved in both options. I've been to several meetings. If we want what is best for the residents of Durham and business in County Durham, then please support the amendment. That's what I will be doing.
Councillor Shuttleworth.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just in case you don't know, I'm the longest serving member of the council, and I wouldn't back a deal unless I thought it was the best interest of people of County Durham and my own constituents. And that's why I'm backing the LA7 deal and ask everybody else to support this amendment. And further reports will be brought to Cabinet in the coming weeks. Thanks.
Councillor Charlton Lane.
Thank you. Rochelle Charlton Lane, Councillor for Dean Sidenseam. Very quick question. So, Councillor Bell was reading from a piece of paper. Can I read that? The letter that you were talking about, Helen. Can I have a read of that letter?
I think you need to take that up with Councillor Bell outside the meeting, but he did disclose that Councillor Marshall had seen it.
Just because if we're being asked to consider things, I'd rather have all of the facts than just spoon-fed what we need to know.
Order. Councillor Henry.
Chair, with your indulgence, before I start, can I first thank all members on all sides of this chamber for their best wishes following my recent illness and spell in hospital. It was very much appreciated. And also, I also want to thank all the nurses and doctors that looked after me, that despite massive pressures do a fantastic job here and across this whole region. So I just wanted to say that with your indulgence. Thank you, Chair. Because I wasn't going to speak, but because my name was mentioned, I just wanted to make the obvious point that until this year, the possibility of a county-wide deal was not on the table. It was put on the table earlier this year after a lot of lobbying by the County Council network, of which I and other members in this room have been members of. And I think that was the right thing to do because it's given all parts of this country the opportunity of a devolution deal. You know, so I think we need to thank the County Council network for all the work they have done. So what that means is that the situation this year is clearly different to it's been in the past because there is the opportunity of a county-wide deal that simply wasn't there previously. The other thing I want to pick up on, as the Gordon Brown Commission document has been waved around, quite rightly because it's a very important document, and I declare an interest having been a member of that commission, and described as already the most radical devolutionary programme presented by either of the two big parties in decades by a think tank just yesterday. That document actually gives all areas the opportunity to decide what is best for themselves moving forward. That is the whole purpose of what has been proposed, and that is exactly what this council is doing this morning. It's quite right that the council should have this discussion because all members of this council have a right to speak and vote here, exactly as we're doing now. So I personally don't see anything wrong in having this discussion or debate. It's entirely right that we do so, and it's entirely right that we're able to have this vote between those options that are on the table. And I just end, sorry if I've still got time, with one quick point, because Councillor Wilkes said something that's actually quite important, and I haven't seen the details, so I don't know the answers to this question.
1 minute.
But it's very important because he seemed to be indicating that no money was at risk if we were part of an LA7 deal, which therefore suggests that the current situation in terms of devolution of transport funding, which goes in at the moment to Necker and back to Durham County Council, he seems to suggest that therefore wouldn't continue or in some way would change, because as I say, my understanding is currently that that funding, which I think may also include some of the highways funding, goes in to Necker at the moment and then back to Durham County Council. So is it being said that there's going to be a change to that arrangement? Because that's my understanding of what was said. Because if there isn't a change to that arrangement, then clearly some of that funding could be at risk, is my understanding. But Chair, I appreciate I have not seen the details of what's in front of people, so I'm not sure that's the case. But I'd be interested in the answer to that question, because theoretically, it seems to me there is a risk in terms of some of the transport funding. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Kay.
Thank you, Chair. Do I hold this up and pretend I'm reading? Is that how we work it off? Do I just put it down, shall I? I find it really strange that we're sitting in an authority here with members of 3 large political groups, and then beyond that, we've got a number of independents. And I would say to you, independents, do you really trust the words of a Conservative government minister? Because if you do, you judge a person by the company he keeps. And let me tell you, if you go along with that, you will be tired with that. And we've heard it twice this morning. I'm sick of hearing this about Labour 100 years, but I'll tell you all something now. I'll put you on notice, because I'll stop pointing and I'll tell you that in 2025, make no mistake, the Red Wall will be rebuilt, and we'll remember this.
Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Chair. What a dear. Can I just put some on the record that going back to 2013 onwards, if the Minister had offered us a county deal, we would have looked very closely at it, with probably the preference to reach that deal. And just such a deal has been offered to Durham last year. And whilst others, including Cornwall, have succeeded in getting the best possible outcome for their area, this administration has totally failed. This LA7 deal is a 30-year contract which will entitle the 5th biggest authority to absolutely nothing other than 30 years of horse trading from a starting position of weakness, negotiated from a position of weakness. We become a council in financial distress, with no strategy for growth, and now no intention to stand for our people and communities, and most importantly, if this is agreed, the loss of local accountability, and it will never be forgotten. We need an offer which, as a starting point, can deliver powers specifically for Durham, that gives control over transport and housing, that leads to its own economic growth and puts people closer to power, and not what this does, which is move people the furthest away from it that is possible. Chair, I oppose this amendment.
Councillor Sterling.
Thank you, Chair. I promise I'll keep this short and sweet. I might be stating the obvious here, but there's just something glaring about the original motion. We all want the best for our residents. We all want the best choices and options on the table for our residents. The original motion just reduces everything down to one choice. The amendment gives us all of the choices. Why on earth would you not want that for our residents? So I will be supporting the amendment.
Councillor McGaugh.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start off by giving an apology to the Joint Administration for what I'm about to say now. We often sit here on this side of the room and say, you know, we talk about what the problem is with Labour. The problem with Labour is they're not always wrong. First and foremost, they are not always wrong. So that's the problem we have with Labour. They're not always wrong. However, what I would say is that the amendment, all the amendment says or states, is that we are looking at the best possible deal. If that amendment said that we are ruling out potential for a mayor, I would not support it. Okay? It doesn't say that. What it says is, do you know what? We're going to get the best deal. I work with some excellent people on our side, and I work with some excellent people on the other side. Okay? We are all after the best thing. I think the difference is how we get there. Like anything, the devil is in the detail when it comes to matters like this. And what we've got to do is stop the squabbling, stop the shouting, and get on with doing the business, which is representing our residents and getting the best value for money possible so that we can get it into here and then out the other side dealing with the residents. And until we stop the minor squabbling and the political posturing from both sides, Chair, then we're not going to get moving forward. Devil is in the detail when it comes to this. And in general, I support what Labour are saying. In general, yes, a mayor deal might be the best one. But until I see facts and figures pertaining to where I get the best, or where we get the best value for our buck, then I'm sorry, I can't vote for anything. What that amendment states to me is that we are trying to get the best deal for our residents, which is why I will be supporting the amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Point of clarification, Chair, please. Can I just ask, is it not the case that several members on that side have already said... Sorry? I'll just use my hand then rather than my finger. Thank you. Have already said that the leader and the deputy leader have indicated to civil servants and ministers that their preferred option is the LA7 deal. Can I just have clarification that that is correct? Because that is what I am hearing, and therefore what has been said by the two previous speakers regarding what's up there isn't valid at all, because they've already indicated their preferred option. Is that the case, Chair?
I think just to clarify, for the purposes of the devolution negotiations, the Secretary of State requested the Council's leadership to give an in-principle indication as to what their preference was. That's the starting point of the discussions. Having given that in-principle indication, there's a negotiation. If there's a deal in principle, it goes through the statutory process, and the Council has to consider that process before reaching a decision. So it's given an in-principle indication.
We have nobody else registered to speak, and we are approaching the time.
I pressed it a while ago.
He did press it a while ago.
Sorry, Councillor Boyce, we're out of time.
Well, I pressed a while ago.
Yeah, but we extended the time limit for a motion. It's my fault. I hadn't seen that your name was on the list, and I was going to bring Councillor Shield in before Councillor Marshall. But that point of order has just taken the last few minutes of the hour, so we now need to go to closing down the debate. So it would be for Councillor Marshall to give his right. There'll be no further speakers. Councillor Marshall to give his right of reply, and then we'll go for the vote on the amendment.
In the queue?
Yes, because we've reached time.
But that's human error, like, it's not...
I've only got one sentence.
Councillor Shield won't get... Councillor Shield, reserved his right to speak. He doesn't get the right to speak either because we've reached time.
So, Councillor Marshall, can you just give your right for reply, please?
Of course I can, Chair. Thank you. It's been quite a long morning, and I'm pleased that Council has been able to have a discussion on this. I think I owe some of the coalition leadership some money, because it sounds like I've been living rent-free in their heads for a few weeks. I think, Chair, there's a couple of things for me. We've had 6 or 7 members of the Cabinet this morning categorically state their preference for an LA7 deal. So they've already determined what the best deal is for County Durham. So anybody who thinks that there's another discussion on that coming back to this chamber for all of our councillors here to have a say on and have a vote on,
this is it. Today is the last time as a council we'll debate this. It'll go through Cabinet, it'll go through whatever statutory consultation process.
Point of order, Chair, is that the case? It
Yes.
won't come back to full council for an ultimate decision.
It will depend on the. I think it will depend on the terms of the deal. So the final approval process, it still needs to be determined, but there will be a decision of a meeting of the authority.
Sorry, Chair, I'm led to believe from the discussions I've had with the head of legal that will be a cabinet decision. It could even be delegated if that was the desire of the leadership. Chair,
A point of order from me. I've never said that, Councillor Marshall.
Honestly, I'm not in the business of lying. I was told that this could be a cabinet decision, and I think you've mentioned 2 or 3 times in this meeting there will be a cabinet decision to this deal in principle, then it'll go to public consultation.
But I've never said it would be delegated.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, Chair, I think the point is, right, we've had a long debate this morning. 6 or 7 of the council leadership have said that they want a deal for a 7. Totally disregarded now a county deal. It sounds like those negotiations haven't gone anywhere. We've had no confirmation, despite all of the political grandstanding, that there's a single penny to be spent in Durham. We've got a letter from the leader, because why should we trust her? The last council meeting she told us that we would get our fair share of transport money. 143 million quid. The day after
Just a point of order. That is a point of order. That's an absolute lie.
It's in your writing.
It's an absolute lie. The question I was
Order,
asked was...
order, please.
Sorry. The question I was asked at the last full council was, would County Durham, in a county deal, get the transport money? And the answer to that, I categorically said, was false. And that is true. It is no, we would not get money in a county deal.
Can we go to the vote? Excuse me, Councillor Marshall, you were speaking. Do you want to continue? Order! Councillor Marshall,
Sorry, Chair, I stand by the
Would you like to
comments
continue?
made. Sorry, Chair, I do stand by the comments made, and then she's put a letter in writing the next day. She said it was absolutely false. We're going to lose out on any transport money, and she has given it up. Chair, the letter's there. Everyone's seen it. I think, Chair, let's get it on record. By fighting this to bring this to this extraordinary meeting, Labour's putting County Durham first. By dragging this whole debate from behind closed doors and out of back offices into this chamber, Labour is putting County Durham first. By backing a county deal over being a small part of a mega authority, Labour's putting County Durham first. We're the only ones who have asked our residents. 84% of the responses said that they wanted a county deal. Are you listening? Is the question I would ask. The Tories and Lib Dems are completely out of touch. They're out of the depth. They're not delivering for our communities, and the public will see it. Because when this all comes out, the public will see that they've been misled. Chair, I think if this council supports the best deal for County Durham, it would stand with us and say, we'll not give up on our residents, we'll not give up on a deal to become masters of our own destiny, we'll not put politics before people, Chair, we'll not accept any amendments like this that dilutes down our motion to give them free rein to do whatever they want behind closed doors in secret rooms, Chair. I urge all members to really think about the communities they've been elected to serve and ask the question, do they deserve the decisions to be made about their communities to be made closer to home, or should they be made in a tiny way? Put people of County Durham first and vote against this amendment.
It's going to vote.
Okay, so we are voting on the amendment as moved by Councillor Hopgood and shown on screen. It's 1 in favour of the amendment, 2 against, 3 to abstain, and the buzzer will sound for the vote being open.
Yes, Councillor Wilkes.
Thank you, Chair. Could I ask, as it's a named vote, that we can see the names on the screen? Thank you.
Named vote?
Yes, Councillor Wilkes, thank you for reminding me. It was requested and 10 members did stand, so the way in which members vote will appear in the minutes. Thank you.
Vote is now. For 63, against 56, abstentions none. Amendment is carried. It becomes the substantive motion. Since we are out of time, Councillor Hopgood, I will invite you to give your reply before we vote again.
Chair, as we're out of time, can we just move straight to the vote?
Will I put vote in again? We'll now go to the vote.
So we're now voting on the same thing, but now as the substantive motion. It's 1 in favour, 2 against, 3 to abstain. If you press the wrong button, pressing the right one corrects your vote. Thank you. The vote is open.
Quick point of clarification, Chair. Just, I referred to the document before. It's page 87, not 83. I'd hate to be... because I just know it's going to get thrown back. It's definitely 87. OK? Thank you.
We haven't closed the vote yet, so members need to wait to leave the chamber if they wish the vote to be counted.
The vote is now closed. For 111, against 7, abstentions 1. The motion is carried. Please do not leave the chamber at the moment till I conclude it. Thank you. That concludes today's business for the Extraordinary Council meeting. I would like to thank everybody for taking part, and to those members of the public and the media who've watched this meeting, thank you for your attendance. John will now draw the raffle ticket for the hamper outside. If you could just sit, so good luck to everybody. There's the tin, John.